All right, back at you this Friday night on the Sooner Surge. Before we get started with this video, please hit the subscribe button and also like the video so you can subscribe so you can be up to date on all our content. And so please do that before we get started. But man, today we had the news earlier of Taylor Tatum. Obviously, we put a video out about his commitment and thought it would be a great time as we're only I think 6 Saturdays away from opening kickoff. Um, let's talk about DeMarco Murray in this running back room. DeMarco Murray, guys, just dominating recruiting as we can see this year. And I mean, this Taylor Tatum commitment. You put him with Xavier Robinson, and who else knows down the road? With Caden Durham still out there, so he's just dominating recruiting, guys. I mean, what else can you say about DeMarco Murray right now?
Well, I think if you go back over these past couple years, a lot of Sooner fans like to reflect on 2021 with DeMarco Murray still in Kamar Wheaton, which it's frustrating because if you go on social media, you still until DeMarco Murray landed Taylor Tatum, people still had questions about
which is crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Wheaton hasn't done anything. I mean,
no, he's ended up at SMU now. Like, I don't even know if he's going to start at SMU. That's a question there.
But they can't say that anymore. Number one running back in the nation now committed. Yeah. So,
and in the 2022 class, he landed 2 top 10 running backs, Sawchuk and Barnes. That's whenever people are like, okay, DeMarco Murray, he's got himself on the scene. 2023, he really emphasized going after Richard Young, which he was a 5-star running back. Obviously, Oklahoma, that was just what I believe he ended up committing to Alabama and signing with Alabama. That was just something they were so behind on for so long, and they were never able to get in to the mix for Cedric Baxter Jr., who ended up committing to Texas early in the cycle. So it's like the 2 5-star backs really DeMarco Murray didn't have his hand on in the 2023 class. I mean, he did have his hand on Richard Young, but like it's Alabama and Nick Saban. That's about as hard as it comes to overcome. And they ended up with Dalen Smothers and Caleb Hicks, who are both great players. I believe Dalen Smothers was top 10 overall nationally in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Caleb Hicks, I think, was rated as a very low 4-star, high 3-star. I'm not exactly sure in the 24/7 Sports Composite rankings. And then you take it to the 2024 class. Xavier Robinson, one of the most underrated players in all of the 2024 class. And then Taylor Tatum, the number 1 running back, 2-sport athlete, superstar, a guy that can do everything on the field. One thing that isn't talked about enough from him is I've heard the comparisons to Rodney Anderson. I've seen that a lot. That's been a pretty common comparison. But also, like, his ability to run routes out of the slot is so effective. Like, I see some of his route running ability out of the backfield sort of like Eric Gray. He can create separation on routes and get open in space, which is key. And I think he's going to be an elite do-it-all back.
Oh, yeah, he is. And, I mean, this, as we look forward to this 2023 season here in 6 weeks, man, I'd like to break down the running backs on campus and kind of what OU has this year. And so obviously, you lose a ton of production with Eric Gray. Eric Gray was that guy last year that he was the go-to guy. Let's just face it. I mean, we know Lebby likes to run multiples, but Gray was kind of the go-to guy last year. So this year it's going to be different. We saw it in the bowl game. Barnes and Sawchuk, it's going to be a 1-2 punch with those guys. And to me, it really doesn't even matter who's starting the game or whatever. Those 2 guys are gonna, kind of feed off each other. I believe you will see packages with both of them in there at the same time this year. I really do with Lebby, and I also believe that they're going to ride the hot hand some games. Whoever's hot maybe get fed the ball more. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. But you also, like you said, Jackson, Smothers and Hicks, very talented. I could see them getting playing time. And a guy we haven't talked about yet, Marcus Major. The guy's been there, I mean, I don't know how many years now, but he always seems to have an injury that kind of holds him up. But when he's not injured, the dude can play. So it's going to be very interesting. He's got, Murray's got a whole selection of backs that he can use. And they're different. Even Tawee Walker, and Megway. I mean, he's got guys, and this room is deep, and so it's going to be very interesting to see how they use these guys. But I would, my probably biggest projection is I think we're going to see two 1,000-yard backs this year.
Wow. Yeah,
Barnes and Sawchuk. I think they're both going to get over 1,000 yards. That's kind of my hot take.
yeah, that's been a pretty common talk, and obviously we've heard the comparisons to Samaje Perine and Joe Mixon, Thunder and Lightning. I think Barnes and Sawchuk have the potential to be that, but I think just Sawchuk is such a different player than what the other three were and are. Because Sawchuk is just a guy that's faster than what Mixon and Perine were, is way faster than Barnes, electric in the open field, and Javante Barnes is you kind of more of your short yardage kind of carry, maybe get more carries a game just because due to his load and how much.
And have you seen him after the off?
Be.
Have you seen him after summer workouts?
Woo, that boy got Schmitty built.
Schmitty built. I mean, I don't know if you have the weights in front of you and everything, but they have that weigh-in. I think it's in first part of August. Remember last year they did the awesome weigh-in. That was awesome. We're gonna be seeing that in a few weeks. So I'm interested to see how some of these guys, kind of grade out on that. But Barnes is so powerful of a runner, Jackson. I mean, he just very powerful runner, and he is a little different in Sawchuk in the fact that although I will say this about Sawchuk, we didn't see him a whole lot obviously until the bowl game, and he surprised me in as far as his ability to kind of shake off tackles. I mean, I kind of had pictured him as the speedster, but he was more than I thought. I mean, as far as vision, his power running, hitting the hole quick, I was very impressed. So I'm super pumped for this year with these running backs. Just totally different than Eric Gray too.
Yeah, I agree, and I also think that a guy, speaking of as you said, Javante Barnes is such a powerful runner. A dude that is just an absolute powerful runner, a tank, is Tawee Walker. This is my hot take. I'll go with that. I think Tawee Walker gets a few snaps in every game this year. Last year, I don't know why we never got to see him on the field. I mean, I know it's the spring game. We can't overreact to the spring game last year, but I'm pretty sure the dude took on about like 5 or 6 people and scored touchdowns.
Yeah, and hey, I hear where you're coming from on that, but my thing is, if you're going to go with power, you also have Javante Barnes, who's very powerful. So, and he's more talented than Tawee. Now, Tawee is a beast, and maybe they will have something for him down in the goal line or something. I don't know. But the other guy, Megway, we haven't seen him yet, and he was, I believe, a 4-star recruit. The transfer was it Washington? He transferred from
Washington.
Yeah, so we haven't seen anything or heard much of him. I believe he was injured a little bit in the off season.
I believe it was ACL.
Yeah, so I don't know. And then Major, guys, he always looks the part in my opinion. And so I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. I do think I kind of have a feeling that you're going to see more running game this year than you did last year. And I think in the bowl game, that was probably, if you look at their season last year, that bowl game, the offense, in fact, the last 2 games of the year when you include Texas Tech, but that bowl game, I think it was the best Gabriel looked. I think the running game with the 1-2 punch was so dominant, and I think it's because it was just balanced. You had the throwing game with Gabriel, and then you had the also the running game with the 1-2 punch. It wasn't one guy out there trying to do everything at the running back position. So,
yeah. And I know that this isn't an offensive line preview, but going back to that game against Florida State, debatably why they could have looked their best was because they had their 2 most nasty run blockers out on the field in Savion Byrd and Tyler Guyton. So I think that has to play into it too. But I just think the ceiling for those 2 guys is so high. And a guy, we heard the comparisons one time of Marcus Major looked like Adrian Peterson in practice. I want to find who said that because I don't know if they were watching the right person. But obviously, we don't know Marcus Major's ceiling because he's been hurt. Like his whole career he's been constantly with nagging injuries.
Yeah.
So if the guy can stay healthy, I agree with you. And
I just don't know. I mean, you look at this, and we're going to get to receivers in our next video, Jackson. But you look at the running back room and the receivers. It's going to be hard for for them as far as the rotations, because they are fairly deep at those positions, and just kind of get people out there and get them rotated in. It's a great problem to have. I mean, anytime you have two backs that like Barnes and Sawchuk that you can rely on, I mean, it's kind of like just a luxury, I would say, you know. So, and I don't know. I mean, you mentioned Major. I mean, we mentioned Tawee Walker. I would say if I were to pick the top three in carries this year, I'm going to go with Barnes and Sawchuk, obviously as the two, and then that third one with the next most carries. I don't know. I would not be surprised if Smothers or Hicks would emerge as that most carries on the team other than Barnes and Sawchuk. Now, it could be Major. I mean, I don't know. But I just think, I mean, I watched in the spring game. I believe it was Smothers had a pretty good game there. And so he can do a lot. I mean, so can Hicks. I mean, it's just exciting times, man. DeMarco Murray is building I don't know the word for it, man. What is it where you keep the stallions in the barn? Like he's loaded there, man.
He's turning it into, I mean, it's truly going to be, when you talk about the potential of adding Caden Durham to the 2024 class, having next year a legitimate 7 deep running back room. And we haven't even talked about Chapman McCown yet. Like the dude, we heard about it in the bowl practices. The dude, I guess we heard that Brent Venables was amazed by him. I mean, the dude's so quick, so fast, so elusive. He's small. He's only like, 5'8", I believe.
Yeah, and you kind of heard the same thing last year when Venables talked about Gavin Freeman.
Yeah.
And we saw Freeman get some touches. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know, man. But that's what Venables preached. He preached it at Big 12 Media Day, competitive depth. And that's what we're seeing in these positions. When we break down all these positions over the next 6 weeks, Jackson, from running backs to receivers, and then you go to the defense. When we break all these position groups down, I think as we start naming these guys off name by name, that's what we're going to notice too. And that's what our viewers, y'all are going to notice, is the competitive depth. It's not one or two guys and then that's it. I mean, you go back to last year, you had Eric Gray, and then you had Barnes. You know, Sawchuk, obviously, they kind of just didn't use him a lot, but we saw what he could do when he got in there. So, man, great problem to have for sure.
And as you said, a guy that's been hurt that looked the part too is Emeka Megway, I believe is how you say it. He's incredible. Like the dude's high school film is legit, I believe. I'm not exactly sure where he was rated, but I know he was pretty highly rated. And so he was a 4-star on 24/7 Sports Composite. I know that. So that dude obviously is talent. And if he can stay healthy, if he can get healthy, I'm not sure that we can expect him to contribute this year, depending on, because we're not going to know anything until fall camp. This is all just purely our guesses.
And Jackson, we're probably not going to know a whole lot until maybe week 3 or 4, because I think they're going to rotate.
Conference play starts.
They're going to rotate guys in and just kind of, I mean, we'll know stuff just because we'll see them play. But I think we saw a taste of it at that bowl game last year, what OU is going to get between Barnes and Sawchuk. And, I mean, I would love for our viewers to put down in the comments. This is what I'm asking of y'all after this video. Go like this video, subscribe, but also I want you to put in the comments, let's get a good nickname for the Barnes-Sawchuk duo.
Let's do it.
I've heard some people say Barchuk or Barsall. So, I mean, give us a good name. Thunder and Lightning, Jackson, you mentioned earlier. Love to hear your thoughts on those two as a 1-2 tandem. Put that in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel. Like I said a few videos ago, we're going to be doing a giveaway for the opening game of the OU season. So please be subscribed. We'll give you the details on how to enter that drawing. So make sure you do that. Anything else, Jackson, before we go?
Yamaha.
Yamaha, baby. Boomer.